Hey, namaste, everybody. Lisa Romano here, the Breakthrough Life Coach. And what I want to share with you today is the number one thing I think we should consider avoiding when dealing with a narcissist and/or an obnoxious or rude person. So, the number one thing that you want to try to avoid when you're dealing with someone who you believe has narcissistic tendencies or is a full-blown narcissist, you want to avoid trying to prove your point. Now, the reason this is important is because we have to understand that a narcissist is generally somebody who does not listen. They don't care what you think. They don't care what you feel. Their agenda is very simple. Their agenda is to be right and to make you wrong. Their agenda is to find people who mirror back to them this idea that they're awesome, or that, in some cases, a narcissist might be somebody who is looking for everybody to feel completely sorry for them and to take care of them, thinking about a vulnerable narcissist or a covert narcissist. Somebody who their entire agenda is to get people to believe what they think and to get them to take care of them. And if they cannot achieve that, and you are somebody who they have deemed as someone who is not playing by their rules, then they will try to intimidate you. Then they will try to, in some cases, even hurt you. They will, create smear campaigns about you. They will try to coerce you, They'll try, like I said earlier, they'll try to intimidate you, So the way I think about a narcissist, and it really helped me, when I got clear about this idea that we're all energy and that narcissists carry themselves in a particular way. And I see a narcissist as a black hole. Somebody who does not know how to generate their own energy from within. Somebody who has to exist on planet Earth as someone who looks to take energy from others. So either they are going to love bomb you and be very charming when they meet you, and they're just trying to be as manipulative as they can without you picking up on this idea that they're full of crap. And in that way, they're hooking you like a fish on a hook, and they're beginning to drain your energy. They're getting you inside their lair, their emotional lair, and they need other people to generate energy from. Now, someone who is rational is generating their own energy. They are grounding themselves, they're taking care of themselves, they're exercising, they're eating the right foods, they're in love with the planet, they're in love with humanity, and, they've found ways to generate their own sense of well-being. Narcissists don't do that. They absolutely generate their sense of well-being from other people. They're energy vampires. So that's why I think the number one thing that we need to avoid when dealing with someone who is narcissistic, maybe not completely a full-blown NPD, but when dealing with someone who is exhibiting narcissistic traits, which is someone who doesn't listen, somebody who exploits you or exploits other people, exploits other people's flaws or their emotions, somebody who feels entitled, doesn't have to play by the rules don't apply to them, somebody who always has to bring the conversations back to them, somebody who does not have empathy for you or your experiences, or somebody who is constantly trying to trump your experiences, somebody who has to, every time you have something wonderful to share, they have to piss on it, they have to suck energy from your joy, right? Going back to this idea that narcissists are like these black holes, they're energetic black holes, and their agenda is to suck energy from other people so they can feel better about themselves. So what we have to understand is that when you're somebody who generates your own energy and you're taking care of yourself and you're really, really trying to stay grounded and you're being self-responsible, the worst thing that you can do is to engage with someone who isn't interested in anything you have to say. Now, rational people think they're talking to rational other people. So if you're a rational thinking person, you're actually wanting to understand what this person is having to say. But that's the mistake we're making. What we don't understand is when you're talking to someone who has narcissistic traits and or is a narcissist, you are engaging in a conversation with someone who doesn't think that way. They're not interested in what you have to say. So what has to change is you. What has to change is your perception of this person. What has to change is your understanding of this person's limitations. And so when you discover that you're dealing with someone who doesn't have empathy, who doesn't know how to bounce emotions back your way, when you've discovered that someone is exploitive, does feel entitled, is all about themselves, and is sucking up all the air in the room, or somebody who likes to push you around. Remember, narcissism is about dominance. If a narcissist can't talk you into idolizing them, then they will try to frighten you or coerce you into obeying them, and that can be a very, very scary situation to be in, being married to someone like that, or, even having a child who may be like that, or a boss, even a friend, right? So the worst thing that we can do is put ourselves in the situation where we are trying to prove our point with a narcissist, because then what happens is, like I said earlier, you're somebody who is generating your own energy. But when you're somebody who's self-responsible for their own energy, there's a limited amount, there's a limited supply of energy that you can generate on your own, let's say, for a 24-hour period. I'm somebody who reboots myself, and I don't expect my husband or my children to make me feel good about me. I don't expect my worth and my energy to come from outside of me. I make sure that I generate that energy from inside as a self-responsible person. But I also know that because I'm responsible for that energy, it can get depleted. So when I'm engaging with people that I understand are not listening to me, I've learned to shutty shutty. I do not get into conversations where I'm trying to prove myself to this person, because they're not listening. And if I put myself in that position where now I'm trying to be heard by this narcissistic person who doesn't give a rat's ass about what I have to say, in a very short time, my energy may have been up here, but it's slowly, every word I speak, every time I try to convince this person of my point, is I'm going to get depleted more and more and more and more. And by the time I end the conversation, I will be completely drained. I will be fatigued. I will be confused. And the person that I'm talking to feels better because he's plugged himself into my socket, and he's drained, he's taken all my energy, and he feels kind of good. So it's important that we understand, I think, if you think about someone who's a narcissist or is on the spectrum, who is severely below the veil of consciousness, whose psyche works to ensure that they never go into that shame vault. They never tap into the I am not enough. They psychologically, they just can't do it. They have been galvanized against looking within because there's so much shame there. Now, I can have a lot of empathy for that person, but I am not having dinner with that person. I'm just not. Because that person, the way that person perceives themselves and perceives life is skewed. And I will suffer because of the way this person is trying not to see themselves. And so I've learned to detach myself. I'm done trying to save narcissists who have had, really troubled backgrounds. And I know why you're a narcissist, and let me save you. Those codependent days of mine are over. I no longer want projects, okay? I want synchronicity. I want serendipity. I want peace. I want abundance, and I want flow. So dear ones, please understand me. Healthy people generate their own energy. They're self-responsible, and they've learned to not even complain about that. They just know that, the more energy they put into themselves, the more they're going to line up with abundance and peace and prosperity outside of them. They've gotten beyond blaming people for why this and why that. I mean, I am all for pinning the tail on the donkey and understanding why we are the way we are. But at one point, we've got to take responsibility for whatever's in our mind, whatever's in our heart. And then we have to use the ability to tap into the creators that we are to change it. So if you're on that path and you're in this place where you're learning to generate your own energy and you're learning to identify the lions, the tigers, and the bears in your reality, and you're beginning to say, my best friend of 32 years or my best friend of 12 years, never listens to me. Never sends me a card for my birthday or a text for my birthday, but we got to go out for the weekend for her birthday. Or, my boss is completely minimizes me and tries to humiliate me and feels entitled to exploit me and get me to stay 5 more hours after my day has ended. So when you're identifying narcissistic traits in people, try to remember that one of the goals is to not try to prove your point. Because what we have to do instead is we have to figure out, what are the boundaries for this relationship? What are the boundaries for this working relationship? Do I want to work for this company? Do I want to work for this person? What else would I like to do? Do I want to be this person's friend? How much of myself am I going to invest in this relationship? Is this a relationship that I want to continue investing in at all? What am I going to do with this relationship with this person, this narcissistic spouse of mine, who is working feverishly to convince me that she or he is this fabulous person, and I can see the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I know the truth. What am I willing to invest and not invest in this relationship? So we look at it from a very logical and rational place rather than a very naive place, right? And not naive, I'm not being, trying to be critical of anybody, but those of us who are rational and who have come out from being codependent and we're trying to be more rational, if you're someone who's trying to understand other people, then, and very oftentimes we naively think everybody that we're talking to is like us. Isn't everybody trying to understand what the other person's saying? No. That blew my mind. I thought everybody was rational. I thought everybody cared about recycling. I thought nobody would throw a bag of McDonald's out a car window off a highway. This is really, growing up, when I realized there are so many people that think so differently, that abuse animals, that don't care about the earth, that don't care about recycling, that don't really care about how other people feel. It blew my mind. But it also helped me reorganize the way I think. It also helped me become more conscious and more realistic about the way the world really operates. So not everybody is going to think like you, dear one. Not everyone is going to sit down and have a heart-to-heart and really try to understand the person that's sitting across from them. There really are people out there that are emotional predators, that are spiritual predators. And some of them do know it, and a lot of them don't. And I think the ones that don't know they are emotional and spiritual and physical and sexual predators, the ones that think they're right, the ones that think they're entitled to treat people this way, are the most dangerous, in my opinion, because very oftentimes they are the most convincing, because they're so convinced that they're right and that you're wrong and that they have a right to treat you this way. So I hope this video has helped some of you think a little bit more open-mindedly about dealing with someone who's a narcissist. And at the end of the day, it comes back to us. It comes back to us setting boundaries. It comes back to us doing our work. It comes back to us realizing that we are enough and that we don't need this person's validation. And it comes back to us being able to hold ourselves accountable for how we show up. It comes back to us learning how to hold on to ourselves and stay in our own skin. And even though it gets a little rocky when you stop giving in to a narcissist, it comes down to us learning to figure out what we want versus what we don't want, taking accountability for what's in our life, and the energy that we're bringing into our life and tolerating. It comes back to us. And so just remember, dear ones, when you've identified this idea that you're dealing with somebody who is not listening, try not to get into the place where you are trying to prove your point, because it is exhausting. You will be beating your head up against a wall. You are basically being toyed with like a cat with a little tiny mouse. Narcissists love to engage with other people. They love to see us dance with exhaustion. They love to make other people infuriated. They walk away feeling very, very empowered when they're able to upset another person. So try to avoid that pitfall. Try to avoid that cliff. Try to avoid from falling into that trap, and just hold on to yourself. Acknowledge what's happening inside of you and decide how much of you want to give to this relationship or this conversation. And then remember to reground yourself. Remember to generate your own energy. Remember always to love yourself. Just love yourself. And what I mean by love yourself, just take care of yourself as if you were parenting a child. Take care of yourself as if you were your own inner child. Love yourself the way a healthy, divine mother energy and divine father energy would love you. Protect yourself the way a divine father energy would, male energy would protect you. And do this a little bit every day. Just really enfold yourself in unconditional love. And you will notice that your tolerance for people who do not listen will really, really decrease. And you will be able to set boundaries a lot quicker. It's a process, dear ones. It's a process. So I just want to say thank you for watching and thank you for being so awesome. And for those of you who don't know, I have a monthly membership site full of resources and tools and workbooks and assessment sheets and meditations and affirmations and courses, you name it, it's in there. And I will be relaunching a couple of my programs very, very soon, and I will leave the links below. So thank you so much for being here, and also check out my Facebook page. You can follow me on Insight Timer and on Pinterest. You can follow me all over the place, dear one, if you want to. So namaste, dear ones, and I bow to the love and the light that is absolutely in you. Bye for now.